Welcome to the quickest version of my so-called 8-bit life. I'm your host, Roberto Villegas. Joining me today live in person, almost as if this were part 2.
It is
Kyle
like,
Murdock.
Yeah, part 2 or part 20.
It's insane because last time you were here, we had to rush through this.
Right.
This time you're here again. We have to rush through this. And
I'm not even like the one who's like tours the most in like the NPC. Like I would think that would be more reserved for like a Rand or Samus or something. But yeah.
So let's kind of talk about this because it's Classic Game Fest, and we'll keep this this will be the short episode, people. I apologize for all this, but hey, we've got so much going on today. Coming into Classic Game Fest, because you've been touring a while. We talked for last time, the episode. You've been touring for a while doing that. This is like the first time in a long while you've been with the entire NPC collective.
Oh, man.
And NPC, for those people who know, stands for Nerdy People of Color. It's, lack of better words, a group of like-minded individuals kind of doing like-minded awesome things.
Trying to,
in terms of representation, in terms of that. For example, I guess I now consider myself a support unit to the NPC.
Yeah, I mean, are you not a nerdy person of color?
I guess so. Yeah,
are officially.
I'm Mexican. I guess that counts me a minority.
Dude, yes.
No, but even then, like I jokingly were talking about this all weekend because I got a shirt, and everything else now. If I'm anything, because everyone in the NPC these days are all either producers like yourself or nerdcore artists. All my friends are this, and I go, well, what does that make me? Because I have no desire to make raps. I have no desire to make beats. I do creative things in terms of this podcast. I go, well, I guess every team needs a Sid. Every team needs this engineer made.
You did say that. Yes, just yesterday. And
trust me, I'm definitely Sid from 4 because I have been touring. I have been like airshipping everybody around.
You literally have, You held our merch. You have been helping us as far as getting to and fro places, showing us around the Austin as well as assisting when we were down in San Antonio. Man, you've been like the utility dude. So Sid is a good dude.
Sid's the apropos one. Just like at least I have an airship, if nothing more. But that being said, has this been the first time in a while that you've had the entire I may say I know there's other affiliate units have been sort of that aren't here, but a good chunk of the NPC.
This is since MagFest at the top of the year. This has been, and forgive me, my voice is like. Oh yeah, I feel like Peter Brady going through puberty.
You have been like, because it's so funny because today and yesterday, it's almost been like, so Classic Game Fest is a thing, kind of retro gaming stuff like that, and. The music side's always kind of heavy nerd or heavy kind of geek stuff. It's almost felt like a jam space versus anything else this time because it's been everybody, because we're all kind of friends and everyone's sort of friendly with everyone else. It's become this thing where, hey, any of the NPC around, hey, Kadesh Flow, are you free? Hey, Kyle, could you do this thing? And you being sort of the one of the lead producers, MC, the person that's been on many people's tracks as the guy doing not just mastering but production and beats and for not. It's become like you've almost been like, hey, can you come on do this? Can you do my beats for me? Can you do this? Not in a bad way. It's just like when's the last time we got Kyle to do spinning for me kind of thing.
Oh man, yeah, I know, and it's so weird. I'm so sensitive about my role in the sense of like there's so many, like there's talented one up. I mean, he does everything. He plays saxophone, he raps, he can dance. And dude is like does the Johnny Cage splits and everything. Then you got Kadesh, who we just saw, who can rap his arse off and play trombone. And I mean, these are all like they speak, and when you speak, you listen, and I mean they're smart. Like the term they use now is woke. They're very like up on what's going on. But I was saying I'm very sensitive about my role because I feel like I wish I could do more, But I've been told like by a lot of them, they see me, myself and Mega Ran as like the connections to all the other and I think that's like the hubs and
and I think that's the important thing because I kept noticing, especially this time go around, how many people like you and Rand sort of inspired to do stuff. In the idea that when they were on stage, it wasn't like one person said it. It wasn't like two people said it. It was like 3 or 4 or 5. Not all of them were saying, "Yeah, you're the guy that got me into this." Or I think I was talking with Ryan Kadesh Flow, and we're just chit chatting. He didn't know it was Juice Lee. I was talking another NPC artist. We're chit chatting. And he was saying he didn't know what he had done a nerdcore song, not knowing
That's how a lot of us were.
Right, because, in terms of genres, nerdcore hip-hop, as it's typically called, nerdcore is sort of a overarching banner for lack of better words, geeky music, and I'm just kind of just condensing it. A lot of people didn't know it belonged there because no one quite knew what this was.
Right.
It's hip-hop, and there's nothing, we've talked, I have talked many times that there's nothing different between nerdcore hip-hop and hip-hop.
Oh, for sure.
But it's interesting to hear that, like, by hearing Mega Ran and hearing your stuff, that cued in people, oh, that's what I'm doing.
Man, that's just I'm kind of the same way. Like, I always cite Ran as he was the gateway for me into the nerdcore realm because, again, I was a nerdy dude of color making music like more traditional and progressive hip hop, and then I always wanted to do something like Forever Famicom. And then when I met Ran through serendipity, good luck, in MySpace, it happened, and it's crazy to see like this next wave of people who are like 10 years younger than myself and Ran, who are like citing us as the like people who inspired them, and the fact that we can still. So anyway, I can be and help them, I will.
So let's chat about just that. Sort of that kind of thing, because we had at Classic Game Fest. I think this is the first time I've seen you. I have seen you always perform. I've always seen you up on stage.
You've probably seen a lot, yeah.
I mean, I've never seen you on beyond the capacity of this podcast we do now, and sort of things we do. I've never seen you actually do a panel. And last night, or yesterday, I should say, this was recording, in addition to all the music, in addition to everything else, the NPC Collective had sort of this Q&A. It was labeled Q&A type thing.
But it also was like an introduction.
Right, introduction to that. But it was a discussion, kind of the idea of why the NPC is important, and sort of the idea of that. And the topic that comes up is representation in terms of this, because Samus has a track, Perfect Dark, where she talks about the idea of, and that was like one of my first tracks I've heard of her. Actually, I heard her do it a cappella years. My first introduction was her doing that, and when I heard it, I was like, yeah, she's absolutely right. There isn't that whole lot of things. That is
deep.
Fucked up.
Yeah. No, it's totally deep. I mean, and it's relevant to her experience, but it's also relevant like beyond that. Like, she's just the voice of, I'm sure, a lot of like young black women,
Right, I imagine a lot of just in general.
You're right, yeah.
But it was interesting talking about that. And the reason I kind of want to get a little bit of your take on this, especially being at the video game thing. I mean, what is your take these days when it comes to representation, especially in video games? And I say that just based on where we're at.
Well, I think it's getting better. You see more of it, like more minorities in lead roles in games, not just like games like StarCraft, but what the next Lost Legacy, the new Drake game that's supposed to be coming out, I guess, soon.
Yep.
Which I can't wait for. The two main, they're heroines and they're women of color. This Nadine and what was the?
I forgot her name, but
the other girl. She's she like not Latino. She looks like she's Indian,
something like that.
But anyway, I was like, that's pretty unprecedented.
Well, I mean, especially it's a AAA. I mean, because this is where we start.
It's huge, yeah. Naughty Dog.
We talk about indie games. A lot of indie games have because it's made by people like you and I, or things like I could talk all day about read-only memories and all the representation in that game, from every walk of life. But AAA has always been that part that's, you always have I think the joke is you always have the grizzled white guy.
Or like if it is a black dude, it's like CJ from Grand Theft
exactly.
Auto.
It's these very stereotypical kind of things.
Or what's the guy's name who was in what is the game where you're like the real tech savvy game? Aiden was the guy in the first one, but in the second one it's a black kid. Like
that one, at least that one I guess is a little bit of a flip because it's a hacker at the very least.
Right.
But regardless, it's rare that we see them in AAA space.
On that level,
like Naughty Dogs, and as much as I love my indie stuff, I know that AAA is the banner. And
because that's the one that most people are going to get exposed to.
Right.
So, it's important.
And especially, and I was thinking about this in the panel because I tossed up a question, but I mean, like, how do you? Because we don't really talk about this on the show much, but you have a kid, you have two kids, and you want to share. All parents want to share their passions with their kids. Nothing more to try to make sure the next generation has something weird and find that. How does it make you feel as a parent to start seeing a lot of this stuff start coming into the mainstream, like a Black Panther and
oh man, it's awesome because now I can like share my. I mean, not saying I wouldn't even if
Right.
it wasn't, but it makes it. I think about it from their perspective, like when I have 2 little girls, and the fact that they can look up on the screen or turn on the TV and see more than like a Doc McStuffins, which is still pretty cool.
Right.
It's a Disney property.
For sure.
You know, like my daughter like now points out to like people on the screen that she's like, I want to be like Moana, or I want to be like Doc Stuffins. I'm like, you look more akin to those people, and so it's great. Like, not saying you can't be looking like, you know.
This is why I bring it up, because it's something that, you know, hasn't, you know, until, I'll put it this way, until Dora the Explorer, we never really had a Mexican kind of thing.
Right.
You know, that wasn't that thing. You know, if I think of the characters I looked up to, I mean, I got lucky in terms of watching Next Generation and Star Trek and things like that,
right.
in that you have representation that
Right.
just because it's Star Trek and that's the world of it. But I know that none of my friends were always like, you know, into all the things. But
Right.
even that being said, I look back in my past of like things that I associated with. It was always the, you know, the anthropomorphized things, the
Right.
things that were already kind of ambiguous as to whether or not Chip or Dale is X or Y or Z. They're
Right.
freaking chipmunks. You know,
Right.
there's no race attached.
Right.
But I look now and it's like, this is great. Just the idea of, especially again from you as a father, just having, I've always wondered that perspective, just seeing.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I mean, it's a good time to be alive, and me and my wife always talk about like what will our daughters like be into as they get older. Like, who are their role models going to be? So it's nice to see, like, not to say they can't have. I mean, whoever they like is great, but the
Right.
fact that they have more choices and people who look like them, that's nice.
I think that's the important thing, because I mean, like, I always remember the story when it came to Uhura, that there was, I think it was Whoopi Goldberg had seen her, you know, on.
Oh,
on that.
nice.
And it was like she was amazed because it was finally time like that a black woman was on a television screen.
Yeah,
and
remember it was like the first interracial kiss
right.
and everything.
And she wasn't a maid. That was
Right,
when
right,
the
right.
joke kind of comment that
Wow.
the actress said, and that was enough important for her to see that. And I
That's
know,
deep.
especially as us as dorks and geeks and things like that, as that has become, you know, part of the mainstream
Right.
to the point where we have these, you know, record-breaking movies that are based on comic book properties and things
Right.
like that. I look at, you know, when I hear the NPC talk about representation and how that works, I'm like, yeah, we have to have it, because I want to make sure that the next generation sees more of them in
Right.
these things, because I don't want this to die.
It's important, man. It's very important. So
Yeah. All right, let's talk more. Let's bring it, but let's bring it to music now for a
Okay.
bit, because you actually had a set today where you got to play a good chunk of Hero Music Volume 2.
yeah, I mean, basically anyone who was here from the album like popped up, with the exception of, well, only IQ, and it was only because he wasn't as comfortable.
Yeah,
yet
I was talking with him
learning
about it.
the track.
And again, it was a.
And it means that much to him that he's like, I don't want to half-ass it, and he has a very powerful
Yeah, so
track
we
too.
should kind of quickly go that. Going into this whole thing, especially when it came to performing that, like, how did you plan? Like, did you plan for always to have the entire collective to come up? Or
Oh
was-
yeah, I mean that's something we did at a MagFest, and when the opportunity came and we got booked via One Up, like taking the initiative to get this done. I was like, wow, this is like another opportunity I can do the hero music, because it's so far in between. And unfortunately, it's not a record I really can perform by myself because I don't rap.
Right, because that was funny. You're like, I think the funniest thing of the set, and I was talking with Rand about this, is just you condensing the entire storyline of Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, I was like, and then they fight Lavos, and,
and then stuff happens.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, you know,
it would make sense. It's fine. It's kind of it's been a very weird weekend in musically. Right. I mean, because you had, like, it wasn't just you up there. It
Right.
was you. It was Kadesh. It was Vincent Lilly.
Oh, we had a blast, man.
It was Creative Mind Frame.
It was fun.
Force, and it was this like weird Voltron of music.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just like, even in my brain now thinking about ways to continue to do stuff like that, because it is few and far between. But I want to make sure it's not few and far between. So we need to. Myself and Rand will be talking after we get back and decompress and everything about like ways to extend these experiences.
So let's take these last 6 minutes, and I told you it would be short because I want to make sure that Samus is right now performing, and neither of us really want to miss the set. And I apologize to the audience for a very, very short episode of 8-Bit Life, but hey, you know what? I'll make it up to you somehow. Only because this is one of those. This has been at. Getting you on the podcast has been like, what day would be best? Sunday.
Yeah, and
everyone's like, hey, can you play in my set today?
And it was the thing, like, a lot of us didn't find out the schedule until like yesterday. Yeah. So I was like, I thought the majority of us were doing everything Saturday. So I thought Sunday I could have that day to like be a patron, like, walk around, but not always the case.
Nah, it's okay. But as kind of a last thought, and this is something I'm really curious on from you. As an artist, as a musician, as a producer, do things like this drain you? Do things like this refill the batteries?
Oh,
I've always wondered, especially when it comes to a thing like this, where it's become less of a performance and more of this like weird jam space.
But it feels, if it does feel more like a jam space, it's just different and atypical of a typical situation because we have everyone here. So naturally you want to try to find a way to infuse all these different people into your set. But no, it's definitely, I'm drained. Part of my voice is drained and like I'm physically tired. But the whole time, particularly like today, especially watching everyone else really like, I'm proud, man. It's almost like a father or uncle, like watching your friends and really just, I'm just beyond like blown away, man. Like
because it wasn't. I can't say I didn't hear a non-Kyle produced track,
right?
Or it's almost like everybody had one. It was like Tech Force, like this is produced by K-Murdock, and this was produced by K-Murdock.
And I almost forgot. I was like, oh my god, we did that song 3 years ago. Like, but he's right. Like I've never been in the same space where now we're all artists. Like he was like just the guy. He interviewed the same way that you're interviewing me. I mean, he interviewed us at Rest in Peace at Rustin's place in Dallas.
That's also one thing we should mention as of this recording. Erzin, right? That was, Erzin is one of their main guys. Rustin had passed away, and it was kind of a little bit tragic. He passed away from brain cancer. I didn't really get the pleasure or the honor of.
He was a character, man. I mean, like a good character, like one of those people like you can meet once and you'll be like, "Yo, that dude from yours," and like, I'll never forget him. Like, Yeah,
that's why I keep hearing for everybody that it's sort of a consistent theme, and that's that kind of thing, but. It's been an interesting weekend. It just especially from me as fan. Like I've already stated, and I'll say it once, I'll say it again. I have no desire to be a hardcore artist. I'm not going to be a producer. You will not hear me rapping anytime soon. That is not my role in this as a unit in the NPC. But it's been interesting just looking at everybody interact. I've only started noticing the second time that it's this weird family where you see Auntie Shubs is doing her thing, Shubs, and Mother Samus is calming the kids down, and Uncle Ran is doing X, Y, or Z,
and you have so many different personalities.
It's been an interesting in that I look at all these figures and I look at all these guys, and at this point you're my friends, and that's how I view you all, and it's crazy for me knowing that somewhere along the line I made that transition, and I don't even know anymore. And it's been, out of all the classic game fests, and I've liked a lot of them, this might have been my favorite because
awesome.
It's I don't know how to put it into words, I guess.
Right.
I'm actually, it's the first time I'm lost for
it's
lost
ineffable.
for words. But I guess I'll ask one and final question. Because I need to ask this as a guy that's been watching. As I mentioned before, this entire weekend we've had Kyle or Vincent Banks, DJ Rockman, or K-Murdock, with Bitforce as a backing band, and like I mentioned, basically and a horn
the NPC horn set, the Choker NPC. Bros. That's what they call themselves.
So I have to ask, because I know a lot of fans weren't here who may listen to this and know who you are. When can we get anything recorded with the Voltron unit that you experienced? This is the first. This is when you experienced the Voltron unit.
I think the seeds have been planted for that to hopefully come into fruition in the very near future. I would love to. Like I myself and Random
I've never seen. I mean, I've seen you always happy on stage. I have never seen you just smile, look behind you at the drummer and smile.
Oh man, they killed it, man! Shout out to the guys in Bitforce. We were saying they were the MVPs of the NPC.
Yes, they are. They're their affiliate units. They're like I don't know what that would make. I guess they would be the returners. It's now I'm using all sorts of weird video game logic of like who's the NPC in the grand scheme of things. Because they're a support. They're partners. They're their own thing, but they're partnered friends.
I'll just say soon, like myself and Rand, like especially after Rand's set yesterday afternoon.
Yeah,
we were like, we gotta find a way to extend this, like
because it was such an amazing thing, and it was a very very much a treat as it usually is.
Thanks, man.
But we are, like I said, this is a quick episode, people. I apologize for it being normally short, but you can blame. You can blame Kyle.
Man.
Actually, what you can do, you can blame the fact that Kyle is such a damn good artist that everybody wants him
to basically play their music. I'm like, all right, like.
Well, it's you. That's why.
It's cool.
Kay is never here, and I was like, honestly, I was excited to hang with Chris. I was, glad to see everyone else, but. In all honesty, the person who I was looking forward to hanging out the most with you.
I'm honored, man. Thank you, man. Seriously.
Well, because we never hang. You've got kids, you've got family, and that's totally cool. But it's rare when you're in my town. And I was glad that we got to hang out Thursday night, just because we got to actually hang out versus like this sort of rushing around and sort of things like that. Because I know the minute the festival begins, you're gonna be in demand. That's just the nature of things. Kyle Murdock, always a damn pleasure to have you on.
Sweaty, but I'm sure
Where can people find you these days on the internets?
I'll just say, let's just keep it on Twitter for now. At Neosonics, NEOSONIX. I feel like the last 3 times I've been on the show, I've been like, my website's under construction, but it really is.
Yeah.
But it's like in a good way.
It's getting quicker.
It's good. It's good. And shout out to James Easterly, who's doing a lot of art. He's kind of a NPC affiliate because he's doing a lot of stuff with Richie Branson.
It's like we have all these support units.
Yo, man, that's awesome.
I'm a support unit, but I jokingly say it, but I truly am.
Right.
I really do believe in the whole thing.
Right.
Of course, you can find me. I'm at Vincent404 there on the Twitters. And if you want to catch previous episodes, you can go to our website, CosmicRadio.TV /8-bit.